Alright, so welcome back to another review. So once again, we've been bestowed upon by iFi. Behold, the iFi Go Bar. Now, this one definitely interested me when I heard that unlike most DAC amps, this one does not operate using battery power, but instead sucks the power from your device. While that doesn't sound all that great regarding a mobile device, if it's a PC we're talking about, it's essentially a mini stack, which means I can potentially use features like the X-Bass functionality to modify my headphones sound occasionally, and all at a lowish price point. So before we begin, you know the usual stuff. Thank you for joining me once again. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into it. So let's begin with the contents. Let's take a look here. You get it all delivered in this tiny box. Now within the box, you'll see the Go Bar itself. This tiny little thing. I mean, it's the size of a finger. You'll see a pleather iFi branded carrying case with enough space to fit the Go Bar and some additives. A short USB-C to USB-C cable, a short USB-C to Lightning cable, a USB-C to USB-A adapter, tasty little snack for the kids, can't forget that one, the warranty to protect your product, a detailed instruction manual, and of course a cool iFi sticker so that you can rep the brand. Now, let's take a look and see what this baby can do. So it has a number of bit rate offerings to pick from. Whichever you select will be illuminated in white back here. So X-Bass will be shown in blue, X-Bass will be shown in orange. As for the rest, look at the screen now for those colors. Now the IEM match switch can toggle to either the 3.5mm or the 4.4mm ports to adjust for very sensitive IEMs. So those IEM lovers, you can definitely trigger that and it's going to go ahead and adjust and suit whatever you may need. Now you can swap between normal power and turbo power by pressing and holding the volume buttons up and down at the same time for 2 seconds. So turbo will be indicated by 6 LEDs lighting up, and I just did that upside down. So it's going to do it this way. It's going to start like this, go all the way to 6 for turbo. Then we'll do the same thing, but only 2 LEDs for normal. Now this plain looking button right here is what's going to enable X-Bass and X-Bass. So it goes like this: off, X-Bass only, X-Bass only, X-Bass and X-Bass, and all over again. And you'll see that illuminated here. Nothing, blue, orange, blue and orange, nothing, over and over again. Now, to select one of the available digital filters, you have to press the button. I'm just going to call this thing the button for over 2 seconds. After that, you can choose between Bit Perfect, which is basically flat, Standard, which is flat but a teensy bit of filtering, Minimum Phase, which features just a bit of roll-off for smoother listening, and the Gibbs Transient Optimize mode. So simply use the plus and minus buttons to toggle between them, and then press the button once again to save and exit. Now, of course, we know this item features 3.5mm for unbalanced and 4.4mm for balance, so you've got flexibility. Now here's the last of the specs. Feel free to pause at your leisure. As for build quality, it's a tiny little unit, but it's made of metal, and it is very, very sturdy, because there's absolutely like no space in between for this to flex into. Like it's just packed from top to bottom. There's no way this thing is going to bend or break on you. It's just not going to happen. Now, let's discuss sound and amplification. Time to talk about how this actually sounds. At the end of it all, I mean, if it doesn't really make a difference, what's the point? So I did this testing using my HD600 OG Marble and my HiFiMAN Arya Stealth. Now surprisingly, the Aryas are my hardest to run headphone here, other than my AKG K7XX. So let's start with a Windows PC. First thing you'll notice is that the device takes precedence over the volume slider, so your volume knob on your keyboard or your volume settings on Windows are now irrelevant. Now to adjust the volume, you have to reach over to the Go Bar and adjust the volume from there. There really is no other way. But for what it's worth, the Go Bar has like 50 volume stages, so there's plenty of wiggle room for you to pick from. Now for those of you curious, I'm running the HD600s on single-ended at 30 out of 50 or 60% power using normal mode. Turbo mode supposedly raises power by approximately 6 decibels, and yeah, that's pretty much what I encountered here. Now translated to the HD600, that's a difference of like 4 levels on the volume rocker. Sound-wise, it sounds perfectly clean and clear. Nothing to worry about here at all. Now I will say though, in comparison, my SMSL SU8 and THX AAA 789 full-blown desktop combo unit does sound a bit flatter on the treble side and a bit punchier on the bass, but you'd really have to A/B to notice the difference. Now, I'm running the Arya Stealth on single-ended at 28 or 30 out of 50 using normal mode as well. On turbo, I'm running them at about 24 out of 50 or roughly 40% power. And I will say that this time around, running them on turbo is actually a noticeable difference. The signature sounds fuller and smoother than on normal. Now comparing these to my own combo, unfortunately I can pick up that you lose a bit of soundstage and separation on the Go Bar. I had no issues listening to them on the Go Bar. Everything sounded normal and enjoyable. But then switching over to the combo reminded me, yes, this is why they are a SummitFi headphone. It was just that noticeable. Now, let's compare what a simple 3.5mm to USB-C adapter sounds like against the Go Bar. And I will count the adapter as power coming from nothing but the mobile device, just because of the lack of 3.5mm port. Starting with the HD600. Using the adapter on my phone, particularly the Galaxy Z Flip 4, I go up to 11 out of 15 on my phone. Sometimes I bring it down to 10 out of 15. If this was the first time I was listening to the HD600s, I would swear they sound as good as can be. But, I mean, I've been listening to these for years now, almost 5 years, and I can tell that they're missing a little thing or two here or there, but that's just because I know them very well now. So using the Go Bar with my phone's volume set to 12 out of 15, I put the Go Bar up to 38 out of 50. This time, by the way, your phone's volume will affect the output of the Go Bar. Now, I'll be honest, I really didn't notice a difference whatsoever. If ever there is one, I simply didn't hear it well enough to care about it. And by the way, I forgot to show on that first HD600 take. This is the USB dongle that I've been using pretty much since the start of dongles, since they began. It's been great so far to me. It hasn't failed me whatsoever. And yeah, excellent audio quality, no bugginess other than the normalness that you would experience from an iPad. But that's iPad related, not generally speaking. It's been a fantastic thing and it has amazing audio. But anyway, let's talk Arya Stealth. Using this adapter, I go up to 12 out of 15 on my phone. And I'll be honest, I feel my phone isn't doing a well enough job powering these cans. It's really, really unimpressive. It kind of sounds like there's like a chasm right where the mids are, right at the center. Like bass, treble, and the vocals are where they should be, but everything else just sounds sort of sucked in. So stuff across both ends, like the bass and treble, just doesn't quite have the same impact as it does on my full-blown DAC amp combo. So now, using the Go Bar with my phone's volume set to 12 out of 15, I put the Go Bar up to 35 out of 50. While it didn't completely fix the issue, it was definitely better than no amp. Still though, not really sure if that little improvement is worth the extra cash here. Next, let's discuss the X-Bass functionality. So starting with the HD600s, the differences are very, very subtle. Kick drums get a little punchier, sub-bass in electronic music gets a little more impactful and slam-in, and bass guitars get a little more growl to them. The only downside, tracks with a lot of mid-bass presence will also come forward, and it's just not so good. For the most part, it's an improvement that you may want to trigger in about 70% of your tracks. So overall, good, just keep it handy so you can turn it off whenever necessary. Up next, let's try the Arya Stealth. Same downside with that mid-bass presence. Definitely turn it off when tracks like The Hammer by Deathclaw come in. Bass guitars get a little more growl and presence to them without losing any detail, though at this point I personally feel like they're too forward now. It's just too much. Now that's up to your preference though. All I'm saying is that you don't really lose anything by turning it on. As for electronic bass, we're talking electronic tracks like EDM, hip-hop, etc. Ooh. I already love the bass quality of the Aryas. As for quantity, I feel they bring it forth when it's needed, but dial it back when it's not. So that's fair, right? On a normal, regular occasion. But then turn X-Bass on, and good God, does the bass knock your socks off. As for kick drums, it really just gives them a little extra thickness and impact. Not really necessary in my opinion, but it's there for you. No loss in quality. Next, I bet you weren't expecting this one. That is right, the HiFiMAN Sundara. I decided to bring along a third just for testing purposes, see how that EQ setting affects them with both X bass and X bass. So, let's talk about that. So bass guitar does come forward a bit, but does not improve on quality whatsoever. Drums get a little extra bit of punch and depth to them. This is pretty much a benefit in my eyes. It really is. Electronic bass. Oh, again. I wouldn't say it improves bass extension, because it doesn't improve bass extension, but it definitely intensifies what's already there. And if you recall the Sundaras, they're pretty good as far as bass quality is concerned. And boy, it gets like right to the point where it's too much. Just right below that. So 2 thumbs up here. Fantastic difference it makes. And now let's talk about X bass. Let me make sure I'm saying that properly. X bass. Hear that? Okay, good. So starting in reverse order, the Sundaras. This generally brings out the upper mids and some of the treble, while mitigating the lower end warmth, and I'm talking like on the bass side of things, just a bit. I can't really say this is a pro per se, but there may be some bass heavy tracks where maybe you'd rather have more high end, and something like this would come in handy. I really don't hear an improvement in soundstage and imaging, but I can hear that this is trying to make it sound that way with that lighter sounding high end. It's trying to make it sound a little floaty, a little more airy. Next, the Arya Stealth. X bass pretty much just toned down, So X bass pretty much just toned down the warmth in the mid bass to bring it a bit closer to neutral, and brought out female vocals a smidge, as well as some of the high end like cymbals and guitar strings, like the plucking of them being strummed. For the most part, I'm not really a fan of this effect, but when listening to Self vs. Self by Pendulum and In Flames, I got a feeling reminiscent of the HD800 and HD800S, one where the bass becomes more of a background instrument and the high end is the star of the show. So by keeping the warmth tone down, I really got to focus on the drums themselves, not the warmth, but the drums and the cymbals in the track. Of course, the Arya still offer the better bass quality and planar characteristics between that and the Sennheiser 800S, but that's neither here nor there. Now, last of all, the HD6 Hungo Bungos. This is the one I noticed the least amount of difference with. If anything, I really only noticed the elevation in the upper mids and treble area, so this one gets a downvote for me. Now let's jump into the notes and observations. So this is the extra part that I noticed that has nothing to do with sound or build or the content, nothing like that. So one more aspect I wanted to test out here is the battery drainage on mobile devices. For this part of the review, I left the device playing music through Spotify at the level I would personally listen to music on that particular headphone for exactly 30 minutes per test. So let's begin with my Galaxy Z Flip 4 using 5G+, not Wi-Fi. The reason being, you're most likely going to be using the Go bar on the go. Makes sense. HD600. Using nothing but the dongle, I started the test with 72% battery life left, and I ended that test at 69%. That's right, 3% drain in 30 minutes. Using the Go bar, I started the test at 68%, and I ended it at 64%. So really, what this really tells you is the HD600s aren't very power hungry by today's standards anymore. Yes, they use a little extra, but it's not a huge difference. Oh, and don't forget, I ran that at normal because that's what I felt was most convenient, sound versus power. Now on the iPad, dongle, I started the test with 65% battery left, and I ended with 64%, so that's 1% in 30 minutes. On the Go bar, I started the test at 63% with the Go bar set to 42 out of 50 using normal power. By the way, the iPad's volume was overridden, and I ended it with 61% battery life, so that's 2%. Now let's talk about the Arya Stealth on the iPad. I began with 84%, I ended at 84%. Really, I mean, it's nothing taken whatsoever. Now, with the Go bar, starting at 84%, 35 out of 50 with turbo mode, I ended at 82%. So that's 2% every 30 minutes. Alright, conclusion. Let's recap here. The iFi Go Bar is an ultra-portable DAC amp unit that runs off of the device it's connected to. It offers single-ended and balanced, a variety of EQ filters, and, well, extra power and cleanliness for your power-hungry headphones. But is it worth it? At its current price point of $329 USD, it might just be. I say this especially if you're looking into your first DAC amp where you don't quite know yet what it's like to have the whole-fledged unit, full-fledged unit with a remote control, a volume knob, a power switch, and the other goodies. This satisfies the vast majority of your headphones' power requirements and can be taken literally everywhere you can take your mobile device. Big thing though, I feel this is to the HiFiMAN Sundaras what the iFi IDSD signature is to the HiFiMAN Aryas and Arya Stealth. It powers them well enough, but oh, that X-Bass. That X-Bass is such a fun little adjustment. I'd say, if you currently have a HiFiMAN Sundara and you don't like playing with EQ programs on your PC or mobile device, definitely give this thing a go. It's going to be an interesting turnout. Also, if you happen to be someone who takes their higher-end headphones with them on trips and absolutely needs something like this, an amplifier, on the go, this is a decent option, and yeah, you can pick it up. But it's not necessarily your only choice. There are excellent alternatives like the Shitful of 4 at $110, the Shithell 2 at $200, or even something like the FiO BTR7, which features Bluetooth as an option and an IPS display. But definitely try this if the tiny size and EQ catch your interest. But that's pretty much all I can say about this thing. Interesting one from iFi. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, ciao.